Hello. We're going live today for Hot for Food Takeover. And it's a little bit different where I'm not going to cook, or I'm not going to show someone how to cook. Yo, what's up? Today we're doing Hot for Food Takeover a little bit different, where I won't be getting someone to make something random in their kitchen, but we're going to talk to Dr. Plantbased, Muzammil Ahmad in Alberta, Canada, I believe is where he is. And he's going to bust some nutrition myths. So get your questions out about vegan nutrition, health and fitness, wellness. I mean, he is a medical student, so he knows the science behind the nutrition. Stuff that I don't know anything about. So this is going to be an interesting conversation. So let's bring him in. How do I do this? I go like this. Send. I'm going to bring Muzammil Ahmad in at Dr.Plantbased. Go follow his Instagram. And he's joined. How do you bring him in? Send me a request to join the live.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to see you.
You as well.
So, Muzammil, you're in Alberta?
I'm in Alberta, yeah, in Edmonton, originally from Calgary.
Nice. I'm
And
originally
you?
from Toronto.
Oh, cool. Where are you right now?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, nice, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Everybody say hello to Muzammil and follow him. I'm saying that right?
Muzammil, you're good. Thank you. Yeah, you're good.
You're the expert here. So essentially, I do Hot for Food Takeover where I normally get someone to act like me in the kitchen, and I sort of take over their kitchen remotely, and I get them to make a vegan meal from scratch. But we decided we were going to do something different and have a real conversation about nutrition and vegan nutrition and all of the messy, confusing stuff and all the myths that I think, I even have my own questions, but we had people submit some questions. So why don't you start by just giving people a bit of background about you, because you are a medical student, right? So you've studied this stuff.
Yeah. So, hey everyone, super excited to be here. You said my name perfectly, Muzammil, so that's good. So I am a third-year medical student. I'm 11 months away from finishing, so super close. I have also studied nutrition. I have a certification in nutrition and a master's in psychology, and also a degree in business. So I have a variety of different educations. And I love just learning about nutrition because it's something that should be the foundation of medicine. It isn't, unfortunately, but that's where I want to, at least for my own practice, and I'm also really passionate about changing just the medical curriculum in Canada, where nutrition and lifestyle becomes the foundation of medicine rather than being the secondary thing that some doctors talk about, some don't. Majority don't even know how it works, how it works inside the body, because food is essentially medicine. And that's what I'm passionate about. And if people were to just eat healthier, we would have a lot less disease in the world. So that's where my passion lies.
And in your opinion, healthier means going 100% whole foods plant-based, or can you kind of dabble? What's your thoughts on that?
That's a really good question. And I'm going to answer this based on science rather than my personal aspect. So when we look at science, what science shows is more plants, the better. We don't have sufficient evidence to say that 100% is better than, let's say, 90% or 95%. When we look at the blue zones, there are 5 blue zones in the world. They all eat plant-based diets, but they seem to all range from 90% to 100%, the average being 95% plant-based. And we see among all of them, very low risk of a variety of diseases. We see the longest living people living there. We have the most centenarians, which is people living more than 100 in these 5 regions. These regions, as you mentioned, are Icaria in Greece, Loma Linda in California, and then there is, I'm just forgetting, Okinawa in Japan, and then there's also Nicoya and Sardinia in the Mediterranean region. So there's five of them, and when we look at them, they are eating a range of plant-based diets, and they all differ in type of foods they're eating. But one thing that's common is these diets are very high in fiber. These diets are plant-focused. These diets are all eating a lot of legumes, something we as North Americans don't do enough of. So I personally eat 100% whole food plant-based diet. And I have enough reasons to do that, which we could get into. But if someone is not ready to do that, I do want them to understand it's not all or nothing, because a lot of people think like that and then end up making no changes because they think, oh, if I can't make any changes, what's the point?
Yeah.
And I'm a believer, just try to do as much as you can in the beginning. It's going to help your health. The more plants you add, it's going to help the environment, and obviously it's going to help sentient beings.
Yeah.
So there's win-win-win the more you move forward, and that's kind of what the evidence has to show as well. However, now if someone has a particular disease, let's say if someone has type 2 diabetes, and that comes from insulin resistance, then I would say the more plant-based, whole food plant-based, low fat they're able to go for that particular disease, the better. If they're able to go 100%, they're going to see the best results. However, if someone is healthy and just trying to prevent disease, then there is a bit more of leeway. So it really depends on who the person is that I'm speaking with. But like I said, I personally eat 100% because there is not just health reasons, but then there's the environmental reasons. If we're talking about human health, we often forget to talk about planetary health. And that's something not even mentioned in medicine. But if the planet is not healthy, humans are not going to be healthy.
Yeah. And that you definitely have to factor in, like,
absolutely
1,000%. I agree with you on the, do what you can, majority plants for sure, even though I am 100% vegan as well. Now, before we get into questions, everyone's saying hello here. Guys, leave some questions below, and we have some that were submitted earlier. I just want to clarify something here, because I think this is always a big question when it comes to nutrition and the vegan diet in general. You eat whole foods, plant-based. What is your take on oil, and do you eat oil, and if you do, what kind?
Okay, great question, because there's so much confusion.
Yes.
And the reason there's a lot of confusion is when people look at data, they don't often differentiate between different type of things. And it's also important to look at what is something compared with and what the purpose of this conversation is. Are we talking about someone just trying to be healthy and prevent disease? Are we talking about someone who's trying to lose weight? Are we talking about someone with heart disease? It all changes. It's variation. But when we're speaking specifically for a healthy individual who doesn't necessarily have disease, who hasn't been diagnosed with anything, and they just want to live long, live a healthy life, when we look at the data, we don't have sufficient data to say all oils are bad for you. I personally do consume extra virgin olive oil because there's a lot of evidence to show that extra virgin olive oil in moderation can be good for you. Because when we look at the Mediterranean area, and that's 2 of the blue zones are in that area, they consume a lot of extra virgin olive oil, and yet they have low risk of disease. They are living long. But then we can look at something, another region like Okinawa, Japan. Only 7% of the calories come from oil. Only 7% of the calories come from fat in total. So very, very low fat diet. Whereas Mediterranean is more of higher fat diet. I wouldn't say high, but a higher fat diet. So you can see that there's a lot of extra virgin olive oil in the Mediterranean region and like very, very low fats in Okinawa, and they both are living long. So at the end of the day, it's what are these foods made up of rather than just demonizing oils in totality, because it's the hydrogenated oils that are problematic. The high saturated oils like palm oil, coconut oil that are very problematic. The highly chemical based processed oils are problematic. When we look at canola oil, again, it depends on the type of canola oil. The canola oil most people buy, the ones that come in big containers, is very bad for your health. However, cold pressed canola oil, they come in very small bottles, very expensive, that most people don't buy, have been shown to be extremely healthy for you. But canola oil in totality gets a lot of bad rep, but people don't understand that there is a healthy type of canola oil. It's actually very high in omega-3. But because most people are not buying it, no one talks about it. So if someone is going to use canola oil, buy that cold pressed canola oil. It's very different than the normally chemically processed canola oil. So that's my take on oil. It depends on the type you're buying, and then it depends on what's going on with the person's level of health.
Right. I mean, if you were consuming too much oil, would there be other, if you didn't have underlying chronic health or anything like this, would there be signs that maybe you should reduce your oil? Like, would you notice it in your skin? Would you notice weight gain? Like, or again, is it just very individual?
I think it's very individual. Skin, when it comes to skin, we don't have enough evidence to say that fats cause a lot of problems. Although anecdotally, some people do say it does. We have a lot more evidence for sugars and dairy to be problematic for skin. And then the other thing is oil is, especially for people who are having a hard time maintaining their weight or losing weight, oil is very, very calorically dense. One tablespoon of oil has the same amount of calories as a large banana. Banana is going to be very satiating with a lot of nutrients, oil not as much. So it really depends on that. If you're struggling to lose weight, I would say replace the oil with vegetable broth.
Right.
With the cooking.
So Brooklyn biologist said, someone's fishing. No, I'm not fishing. I'm asking on your all behalf. I, of course, eat lots of junk food, as people know, but anyway, we can talk about junk food later. Okay, so who has any questions? Why don't I go to our question thing and we'll bring up this. This question's from my friend. Okay. You're going to see it. What are the best vegan aminos? Now, I know particularly this is because she's running a lot. She runs as her exercise, but she also does like a long distance running, and her calves, her muscles are hurting, and she doesn't know what product to use for this.
Okay, so I'm going to say for questions, if you want everyone to see it, if you click on it, it will show up for everyone what question you're so then everyone can see it too.
Does that not work?
Maybe it did for other people.
Everyone will see on the screen, and then I see it. You don't see it?
I don't see it, but maybe other people, as long as it's saying that, other people are probably seeing it. I'm still figuring out IGI as well.
Yeah, me too. I didn't even know we could do this. But the question is, what are the best vegan aminos? Yeah. So
there's no best vegan aminos. Let's talk about what she's talking about amino acids, right?
Good.
Amino acids are basically molecules that make up a protein. I think this is a good time to also talk about protein, because then I'm going to come back to amino acids, because I'm pretty sure some people might be wondering, do I need to worry about complete versus incomplete protein? And that's essentially when they're asking that, they're asking, will I get enough essential amino acids if I'm vegan? Okay, first thing is all protein is made from plants. That's where essential amino acids are made from, and animals as well as humans. Everyone gets it from plants, essentially. Even if you're eating meat, your amino acids came from plants. Now the question usually is, are the plant-based proteins complete protein? Because there's this myth that's been going around that plant proteins are incomplete. And like I said, it's a myth. It's not backed by science. All plant-based protein sources have all the essential amino acids. The only incomplete protein to exist is actually gelatin, which is animal-based. All the plant ones are fully complete. What does incomplete protein mean? Incomplete protein is when it's missing some sort of essential amino acid. Because we need essential amino acids to build protein in our body and for many other functions inside our body. So when you're eating plant proteins, you get all the essential amino acids. The only caveat is, and it's not that important, I don't want people to freak out, is that different amino acids vary in different amounts depending on the food you eat. But that is not any different than when you're eating vitamins and minerals from your food. You don't get all your vitamin C from one food. You don't get all your minerals from one food. You're not eating a multivitamin here. You're eating food. So when you're doing that, your body just accumulates different amino acids, just like it accumulates calcium and other minerals and vitamins, and stores them and uses them and recycles them as needed. So you don't need to be like combining certain type of amino acids or certain type of proteins. You don't need to worry about that. Just eat variety of food, and just get enough of your calories. Eat your protein sources without being obsessed about it. That would be mostly legumes, but all foods really have amino acids. So just eat variety. Your body's going to store it. Your body's going to use it as needed. Now, when people usually ask questions that you got asked, people are wondering, do I need to be supplementing with amino acids? And the answer is, it's not necessarily the amino acids. You may or may not need to be supplementing with protein powder. I personally don't really, I try to focus on food. The only time you really need to be focusing on that is one, you need to be an athlete. Otherwise, I really don't think people need to be taking any sort of protein supplements. Because when you're trying to build muscle mass, that's when you need slightly more protein than an average individual. However, you can still get more than enough from food if you're eating high protein foods. If you feel you're not eating enough, then you can supplement with a protein powder. But I wouldn't necessarily focus on taking amino acid supplement. Then I would just focus on making sure it's a very good quality protein powder, plant protein. So make sure that it's third-party tested for heavy metals. That's a key thing. And then I also care about is it a sustainable company, and do they have any fillers or chemicals or additives? Look out for that. So you're getting clean. But like I said, my goal is for people to get their protein and the rest of the nutrients from whole foods as much as possible.
Now, if it's her muscles that are hurting from intense working out, she's not an athlete, but she's doing more than the regular activity that a person of our age needs to do. Is it that she's eating the wrong foods pre or post workout?
It could be a lot of different things. So I'll go through a few common things. It could be she may have just started working out and she's taxing her body too much, too soon. I see that very commonly because the muscles are not used to it and you're going too much too soon. It could also be that you're just not getting enough sleep, so you're not getting enough recovery time. It could be that you're simply not getting enough antioxidants, and I'm not talking about supplements. I'm talking about just fruits, lots of fruits and vegetables, because antioxidants fight, basically neutralize radicals and free radicals inside your body, which reduces inflammation. So maybe she's not getting enough antioxidants because I'm not saying that's what your friend is doing, but I see a lot of people just eating a lot of junk food and not eating enough fruits and vegetables, and then there's a lot of inflammation inside their body. It could also be that she's not getting enough protein, but again, she doesn't need to be supplementing with some sort of amino acids. I would just look at her diet and see, like, are you eating some sort of legumes? That could be tofu, tempeh, lentils, beans, chickpeas, peas, and then a lot of grains. Like all the grains have protein as well, and then peanut butter and nuts and seeds, and so just making sure you're getting all of that. It's really hard to say what could be going on because there could be like 20,000 things that are causing the exact same symptom.
I want to go back to this protein thing. You keep mentioning legumes, so luckily that does include tofu. I heard you say tofu. Yeah. I just want to know that for myself because I really like tofu and tempeh, but I don't so much love eating beans, at least not in their whole form. I like to mix them, mash them, hide them in things. Yeah. I like lentils.
Okay, lentils are really good for you.
Legumes, then.
Yeah, tofu is good. Tofu is made out of soybeans, and soybean is a legume. So you're good.
Yeah. Now I am a huge supporter of tofu, and of course, someone said, "What's your take on too much soy? Is that a myth?" I, of course, am going on and on that tofu's great, but if you can address the soy myth and then maybe tell us, is there a difference between eating, say, edamame and a firm block of tofu? Is there a difference nutritionally between those two products? Okay.
So soy, that's a great topic. And because that's a topic I get asked all the time.
It'll never go away.
I am glad because the more people ask, the more people are going to eat tofu and more people are going to eat soy. So a lot of people are concerned about soy and hence tofu is because they're scared of estrogen. That's really where it comes from. I want to start off by saying that tofu or soybean is just a bean. People have demonized it to make it think like it's some sort of alien food, just a bean, right? It's actually a really powerful, nutritious bean. So this goes like decades and decades and decades back when they didn't fully understand what phytoestrogens were. We have known for a long time that too much estrogen in our body is not good for us. It increases your risk for breast cancer, for prostate cancer, and for other health problems too. So when they started studying tofu or soy in general, what they realized was there's something that looks similar to estrogen, and there's a lot of it. They didn't fully understand what it does, so they were like, "Oh, that's like a lot of estrogen. We gotta be careful of that." And then later on, there were 2 case studies, and I want to clarify what a case study is. Case study is when you have looked at a singular individual person. This is not a study with many people. It's not a controlled study. It's just like they come across a person, they're like, "Oh, this is an interesting case. Let's write about it." That's what a case study is. They had 2 of them where 2 different individuals ate a lot of soy, and had some health issues. They were eating upwards of 20 servings a day for a long time. That's a lot, right? I'm not even recommending that. No one is recommending that. And we don't even know, to be honest, if that much soy is actually bad or not, because we never actually did a controlled study. It was really a singular person. So that's what happened. And then they did rat studies. They did rat studies where they fed rats really concentrated version of soy, and a lot of it. We're not eating a lot of concentrated version of soy, first of all, right? And two, we're not rats. So those studies really don't apply to us. When they finally started doing human studies, what they started discovering was complete opposite. One, they finally understood what phytoestrogen is. Phytoestrogen is similar to estrogen, but works differently. It's a plant-based estrogen. It's not a mammalian estrogen. So it actually works on different receptors in your breast tissue. And it's been shown to lower the effect of estrogen. And by doing that, it actually lowers your risk for breast cancer. Now, a lot of the cancer organizations around the world have updated their websites and guidelines recommending soy to lower your risk for breast cancer. I know there was a time when they were cautious because they didn't have enough studies. Now we have more than enough that they're even recommending that people eat soy to reduce your risk of breast cancer.
Right.
Now, men are often worried for the same thing. Men are like, is this going to increase feminization? Is it going to give me man boobs? And things like that. They have done meta-analyses looking at this, trying to find studies to see, is soy bad for men? Over and over and over, they find nothing. There's nothing to prove that. This has been popularized by certain industries that benefit from people not eating soy. Media, because media loves controversy. If one day they'll say butter is bad, and another day they'll say butter is good. One day they'll say soy is bad, another day they'll say soy is good. So, but when you look at concrete science, it hasn't been able to show it's bad for males. It's actually the quite opposite. It's been able to show it lowers your risk for various cancers. It lowers your risk for heart disease by helping lower cholesterol. And it's actually good for your bones, because estrogen, even though estrogen increases your risk for cancers, it's actually good for your bones. And phytoestrogen, when it comes to your bones, works similarly to actual mammalian estrogen. So phytoestrogen is kind of smart like that. It works in benefit in our bodies wherever it's beneficial. So it's beneficial all around. And many of the blue zone regions have been eating a lot of soy products for a very long time. And yet they don't have man boobs. They don't have high risk of breast cancer. They don't have feminization problems. If all that was true, we would have seen that in these societies.
Someone here added, and this is what I wondered too, is were they feeding the rats soy protein isolate? So we see soy isolates in more packaged foods than anything, especially a lot of vegan products, or actually a lot of non-vegan products, or accidentally vegan processed food. So processed food, you'll always see soy protein isolate or something. And so what is that? And I guess they want to know, is it man-made, or is it natural, or is it just some kind of processed version?
So I don't recommend soy isolate because we don't have enough studies. But when they did do the rat studies, they were giving them like very concentrated version of soy, right? I do want to point out that when people are eating, I don't recommend processed foods. Just want to say that. But if a person is eating it, they're probably not eating a ton of soy concentrate. There's probably minuscule amount to begin with, right? It's probably in the ingredients, but it's not enough to do the damage that I'm talking about that was found in rats, because that was their main meal, was soy concentrate. In a processed food, that's like a small portion of it. So I just want to clarify that like I would still, like, if once in a while you want to indulge and just have that processed food to make yourself happy, just know that it's, one, you're not eating that every day in every meal like those rats were fed. Two, it's in minuscule amount compared to having the entire meal made out of it. But the benefits that they have found came from the whole form. So whole form doesn't just include edamame, but it also includes tofu, it includes tempeh, it includes soy milk. These are the ones that we studied, and you're good. So if you're eating those, you're good.
But don't deep fry it, is what you're saying.
No, yes.
You realize you're talking to the person who breaks all of your rules.
Oh, I know. I do love your recipes. I've been following you for a while.
Part of the reason you want, this is an intervention. This is a hot for food intervention. I'm just kidding. But like, do you never eat like a vegan donut? Do you never
Oh, I
eat a
do.
cookie?
Oh, I
Do
do.
you have,
Oh, I do.
what do you do? Do you do like cheat day? Like everyone does these cheat days, which I think is sort of weird, but
I don't believe in
no.
that. Because if you're cheating on your diet, then something's wrong with your diet.
Yes, that's what I think. It's like if you need to have a day where you like
Yeah.
binge and do all
No, I
these
do
bad
that.
things, it's like what are you doing every other day? You're
Exactly.
depriving yourself.
Exactly. I think if you're doing that, then that means, you're just not going to enjoy your daily meals, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to be thinking about that day. So I don't have a cheat day. I try to just eat very clean on a regular basis. I do have a sweet tooth, but I just make a lot of healthy things at home, like smoothie bowls and really healthy brownies and things like that at home, that are nutritious. But once in a while, I will indulge. But I want to mention that it doesn't happen on a assigned day. It has to do with when I'm just feeling it because it's occasion or because I'm with friends. So because I know overall I'm eating very healthy, I don't really get too bogged down if once in a while I'm just out with friends when we'll have the vegan donut because I believe in the 90-10 rule. Yeah, I eat very clean 90% of times, and then 10% of times I'm okay with being more lenient.
That sounds like a pretty good plan. Yeah, you have to have
Yeah.
those lenient moments,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Um, you cut out a little bit, so hopefully people are hearing that feed. I don't know if it's my signal or yours, but I got most of what you said. Um, let's bring up another question. We've got more from people. Here we go. Can you see that question now? Is going vegan the best option for effective weight loss? And if so, how?
All right. I can't see it. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but
Sorry.
as long as you can see it, so you can
I
read
don't
it
know
to us.
why.
Yeah, no, that's so okay. In regards to weight loss, I love that question because I love talking about weight loss. Um, there was a study done that looked at the average BMI associated with people on different type of diets, and they found that people on a 100% plant-based diet to have the lowest BMI. Actually, what they found was vegans to be the only ones to have, on average, to have a BMI in a healthy range. Even vegetarians, pescatarians, everyone was above the healthy range of BMI.
Mm-hmm.
That goes to show that eating plant-based does help just maintaining a healthy body weight. Do you need to be vegan to lose weight? No, because there's thousands of ways to lose weight, right? But I genuinely believe that when you are losing weight, how you do it is really important because one, you're going to build habits. If you're doing it the wrong way, you're going to build those habits. Two, if you're doing it as a short-term diet thing, then when you come off of it, you're going to gain that weight back. And it's just not long term, right? So I am big on building lifestyle changes and habits that you can just sustain continuously rather than just for a short term weight loss aspect. Eating plant based can make it a lot easier to lose weight without counting calories. And when I'm talking to people, I know most people, no one likes to count calories. Even the people who count calories don't like to count calories. Let's just be honest. They're lying if they say they enjoy it. People like to eat food. When you're eating a high fiber diet, you're very unlikely to overeat because it's so satiating.
Yeah.
Right? The trick can come more from, and I eat all these foods that I'm going to mention, but trick can come when you are trying to lose weight and not keeping that in mind, like peanut butter, almond butter, tahini, extra virgin olive oil. These things, very delicious and actually can be nutritious in your diet. But if you're not keeping an eye and you're trying to lose weight and all you're doing is drizzling a lot of that oil and then you're making a smoothie and you weren't even looking and you just dump like 3 tablespoons of peanut butter, that's not going to help you lose weight, right? Because even though I don't think people need to count calories, but calories still matter even if you're counting or not. Your body's still going to process them. They're either going to use it up or going to store it as fat. So it is important that if you're trying to lose weight, to focus on as whole foods as possible and leave those even slightly processed foods, like decrease the amount for now. Like instead of, if you're eating peanut butter, eat in moderation or just stick to peanuts. Because nuts actually help you lose weight. Because when you're eating them, you're doing a lot of chewing. So you're more likely to feel full sooner. Because chewing involves like work and it gives your body enough time to send a signal that it's eating and it's consuming food. And not all the calories from nuts actually get absorbed. But majority of calories from peanut butter and almond butter do get absorbed because all the breakdown has already happened. So that's another factor.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
eat a handful of almonds instead of a spoonful of almond butter.
Yeah. Yeah, when people say calorie is a calorie, science disagrees. Calorie is not a calorie. How it gets absorbed in your body matters. If certain foods are, like nuts, if not all the calories are getting absorbed, you may have ingested the same amount, but you're not gonna digest and absorb the same amount. So that matters too.
Let me go back to you. You're talking about BMI. Now, I don't know a ton about this, but I remember seeing a lot of criticism on Instagram from, activists and whatnot, and body positivity accounts talking about how BMI is bullshit and how we shouldn't be using this sort of old school way of measuring body weight because it's not really like political. Again, I can't explain it. I saw a lot of backlash against BMI. Can you speak to that at all? And
so I totally understand where the backlash comes from. There are a few tricky things, right? Because when healthcare professionals are using BMI, they're using it differently than when, like, let's say media is using it. Because when it comes to body weight, there are two different aspects. There is more of the body image side of things that has to do with how other people view you, the images media portrays, and what media thinks you need to look like, and all the anxiety and just harm that does. That's separate, and I'm not a fan of that. That's horrible. But then there's the other side. You cannot deny that excess weight is not going to increase your risk of certain diseases. We have studies after studies after studies showing it absolutely does. Like, after a certain point of weight, your risk for certain diseases does go up. Because if you have a lot of excess weight, there's going to be more lipids in your blood. There is, when you have a lot of central adiposity, like more of the excess weight in your abdomen where your organs are, that increases your risk for like fatty liver disease and a lot of other issues because that's where your organs are. So you cannot deny that. You can, like, I understand the body image movement, which I'm pro of. I don't believe in shaming anyone, but you just cannot combine the two. I see that there being a bit of a problem, right? And the reason a lot of people say BMI is a bad tool is because that tends to come from more of the fitness world. A lot of people have a lot of muscle mass, and BMI doesn't take that into consideration. It just takes weight and height into consideration. So if someone has a lot of muscle mass, it may look like they have a high BMI, but they may just have high muscle and low body fat. But when we are taught to use BMI, we also have common sense, right? We don't just use BMI and not look at the person in front of us. We obviously look at the person and we're like, this person clearly works out, takes care of themselves. They're not overweight, they're higher weight, but it's coming from their muscle mass. So BMI is gonna hold lesser value. But more than 90% of the people aren't fit in that category. The 90% or more are probably that are overweight due to excess fat and not due to excess muscle. So for those people, BMI does help you to see if it's putting that at an increased risk of disease. Was I able to explain that?
It gets really tricky, It gets really tricky because, well, and I don't necessarily want to go down this road because I'm just speaking very anecdotally, and I don't, you're the science guy. I'm obviously just sort of looking at everything I see and absorb via the media, more or less, right, and via social media, and you don't always really know how to take a lot of that. This is very personalized. It can be very it is very complex to talk about weight and weight loss. I mean, I think I want to state that, like, you're passionate about health and fitness, you're passionate about weight loss and nutrition, and that's your thing. And I think that you have every right to speak about what you know. And it may not apply to everybody, but if there are people here who that is what they want to do, they should. But I certainly am not doing this to make anyone feel like pressure to do it. I don't work out a ton since COVID started. And I eat the same as I always have. And, anyways, I'm just sort of letting people know that none of this we're not doing this to, like...
No, of course not.
...force anyone to do anything, because it really is up to you. And I guess when it comes to, weight gain, a lot of people want to, like, have gains and get muscles and everything, and also weight loss. Is it very personalized? Like, what is the science, if you can make this sort of brief, but what's the science in that? Because it seems like it's very particular. Like, I could do the same amount of sit-ups as person over here and no results would happen for me, and lots of results may happen for them. Like, you can't necessarily do these comparisons, right?
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of complexity, and that's where
Yeah.
media is not the best source for it. At least the way I
Yeah.
have been taught. I can't speak for doctors who were taught 20 years ago, but I can
Sure.
speak for how things are taught now. We are taught about these complexities. We're taught to look at like weight loss, weight management, and different issues from a very complex way of thinking. From there's like a mental health component to it, there's a cultural component to
Sure.
it, there is the workout component to it, there's food component to it, there is like someone living in a food desert. There's so many, and we are taught that. Media doesn't always show that we are taught how complex it is. And like I said, I'm not sure how doctors were taught like 10, 20 years ago, but now I think when it comes to this particular topic, they are doing a great job at teaching us about the complexities. And I am passionate about that because nothing is black and white. And we should never take a blanket approach to approach all the patients. It should always be like very individualized and patient centered.
For sure. This is so fascinating. I really like talking about this stuff, and I never do. It's more that I like talking to you because you know your stuff, and I think this is an easier way to ironically digest this information than having to read a book or go online and read a really long study, because we don't have time to do that. you
It's
know
completely fair.
Yeah, and there's a great conversation going on in the comments that everyone should check out too. I think people are making recommendations and stuff. Let's get to this question, then we can go into talking about grains and gluten. So this question, again, you probably can't see it. Sorry. Tips for celiacs getting all nutrients from a plant-based diet. So this is a gluten-free This is a gluten allergy celiac.
Right. They absolutely can, because there are a ton of grains that don't have gluten. The problem often comes when people cut out all the grains, because grains are very nutritious for you. All the blue zones I mentioned do consume grains, different types of grains, but they all consume grains. And we have studies to show consumption of grains reduces the risk of a variety of diseases. So if you are celiac, just find grains like millet or couscous or oats, like gluten-free oats, or quinoa. Like find grains that are just gluten-free. Don't I see more of a problem when people start buying these processed
Yeah.
gluten-free things, because a lot of those things have a lot of fillers and they're not whole grains usually, right? So instead, just discover the gluten-free grains and just start making the recipes you used to make with those instead. And you can still have delicious recipes, but I would not cut out grains, and you can be very healthy without the gluten, as long as you're still consuming grains.
Yeah. I think it's, we're seeing so much wheat gluten, seitan products.
Mhm.
Seitan is a really old food. It goes
Mhm.
back to ancient China,
Yeah.
ancient, long time ago in Asia.
Mhm.
But the Buddhists ate seitan. So it's this ancient food that obviously was never considered unhealthy. So I want to talk about gluten itself, because when we talk about seitan, vital wheat gluten is what the isolated gluten is. It's pure, isn't it pure protein? It's
Yeah.
very high in
Mhm.
protein.
Mhm.
Where did this whole gluten is the devil thing come? And is it actually, does gluten make you fat? Does gluten, like all these things people say,
I
it's ridiculous.
know.
So let's talk about gluten.
I love it. Okay. Honestly, 90% of these problems come from the media. I'm not gonna lie. There's usually very little science to back up these claims that media tends to make. They can make whatever, publish it on their magazines, sell millions of copies, and then later be like, oh, we're not supposed to be backed by something, we're just a magazine, right? They could say whatever. It's the same with gluten craze. Um, Majority of people are completely fine eating gluten. The studies have shown that gluten grains like wheat is actually really good for you if you can tolerate it. And majority of people can absolutely tolerate it. There is obviously that around 1% of people who may have celiac. So, for them, I would say shift to gluten-free grains, not gluten-free products. They are two different things, because gluten-free products can be highly processed if they're not made from whole grains. And then there is a small subset, and it's a small subset, a lot smaller than media makes it seem like, that are just gluten intolerant. They may not have celiac, it doesn't show up on any test, but then they do feel awful on gluten. Again, for those people, sure, cut out gluten, but don't cut out grains. They're not the same thing. But for majority of people, gluten is actually quite healthy.
Yeah.
Studies have shown it to be healthy. populations that have been studied that live long, the blue zones, they eat a lot of gluten grains, and then if the grains in totality lower your risk for heart disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and many other diseases. I would not be scared of that. And when it comes to seitan, again, if you are not gluten intolerant or celiac, it's completely fine to eat seitan as part of a diet. Not, I wouldn't say like only depend on seitan for protein, but like as part of the diet.
Right, like don't just eat it as your only protein. You again
exactly.
want tofu, tempeh, like
yeah, mix it up. Exactly.
Isn't that, okay, so you said not all calories are equal. So obviously we're talking about eating gluten when it comes to more complex whole grain bread. Like, let's talk about bread.
Yeah.
There's so much bread that is refined and all of the grain is gone, so there's less fiber. So we see all these fancy pants people in Europe eating baguettes and wine all the time, and they're seem fit and happy. But over here in America, everyone's like, bread, baguette, white bread, cut the bread, leave the bun off. Like, what is happening with this whole anti-bread thing? And can you qualify what type of bread one should eat?
Okay, good question. This is where things can get very technical, because it's not just bread, right? If you're looking at like European regions versus America, we're doing a lot more problematic things to begin with when it comes to food.
The grain itself is different.
Yeah, like everything is different, and the quantity of food is different, and we eat a lot more processed foods, ultra processed foods. We eat a lot more meats, here than other parts of the world. There's a lot of differences. People here are eating McDonald's all the time, so it's eating McDonald's versus a bit of bread that French are eating is very different. But when it comes to bread, my recommendation is always go for whole grain. I personally buy sprouted bread. That's what I buy. Oh, nice. That's one of the healthiest kinds. So that's what I recommend. If you're able to, access it, go for sprouted. It's actually delicious. I love it. Then there's sourdough bread, rye bread. These are also good. But I always go for whole grain. Companies are so tricky because now they're selling brown bread, but it's not whole grain. What they do is they just put molasses to make it brown, and it's essentially white bread or mostly white bread. So look at that, look at the ingredients, so they're not trying to trick you. Make sure it's 100% whole grain if that is your goal, just so you don't get tricked. Because I know a lot of my friends worry buying that. They're like, no, I eat whole grain. I'm like, can I just see? And there's like molasses right there and enriched flour, and it's not even whole grain. But again, going back to comparing with your European, it's not just the bread. It's more the quantity and the quality of food that plays a huge factor as well.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Okay, I think we're good on the gluten question, unless anyone else has questions there. I find it just so funny to, I feel like I feel like everyone I know will complain about gluten all the time.
Right.
Actually, I guess I still have another question. Could it be then that when people think gluten is the problem in their diet, even though they're obviously not celiac, because so few people are celiac, and you're basically saying so few people are actually gluten intolerant, what could they be doing wrong? Like, oftentimes, especially these are non-vegan people, I would say, well, cut the dairy. Like, it's making you tired, it's making you sluggish.
Absolutely.
But let's say you're vegan and you're still feeling maybe not the greatest. Is it really just a matter of more fiber? Like,
so a lot of the times when people say, oh, I cut out gluten, I felt better, what they really mean is they cut out donuts, they cut out like refined buns, they cut out their whatever, they really cut out mostly the processed grains, and then they felt better. I see that over and over and over, and they'll be like, see, it was gluten. But I'm like, no, it was the processed foods you were eating, and you cut them out. So if you're having these problems, when you're eating whole grains, and you're eating whole foods for the most part, like majority, and still having problems, sure, you can experiment with going gluten-free if you really feel that is the root cause. But just like I said before, stick to whole grains. There's so many of them that don't have gluten. I just see a problem when people switch to these like gluten-free products that are store-bought that are very problematic for their health.
Yeah. Oh, my other friend is here too. Juice fasting. I guess someone was asking. So, let's talk about juice. and let's talk about fasting and then juice fasting, because I have a question about, like, I've always heard mixed things about juice. Sometimes I love the odd juice, you know. I don't eat bowls and bowls of raw vegetables. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I'd love a green juice. So I go and have a green juice. Does that spike your blood sugar? Is that bad? Should your juices have no fruits in them? This kind of thing.
Okay. So if I'm not going to give a black and white answer here, because if someone is drinking a cup of fresh juice once in a while, it's completely fine. You know, you're out for a brunch on that Saturday, you had it, that's fine. If you are thinking that juice is going to give you all this nutrition, then I have a problem. Really, it depends on what it is. So because you do lose all the fiber when you're juicing, and you actually lose a lot of nutrients too, because a lot of nutrients are fiber bound. So you end up losing that as well. So what you're left with is a lot of sugar and then some nutrients. So it has become essentially a processed food now, quite processed. Whereas when you're drinking smoothie, it's different. You're getting all the fiber and all the nutrients. So smoothie, I'm a full supporter of. Juices, I would say if you want to indulge in it as part of like a brunch or whatever, like make it that. Don't give it this glorified title to it. But when it comes to, if someone wants to do green juicing, that is a lot better than fruit juices, because green, or like vegetable juicing, because that's not going to really spike your insulin. It's not very high in sugar. So I'm more okay with that. But my problem becomes, again, when people are replacing all the greens with that, because then they are losing fiber. So if now your only way of getting vegetables are these juices, and you're not eating the actual vegetables, that's not then good for you either, because you're losing all the fiber you would have consumed. So like I said, it's a very contextual. I think eating whole foods is the best. Dr. Greger has a statement: as long as you don't lose, I'm paraphrasing here terribly, but as long as you don't lose anything like good from your food, and as long as you don't add anything bad to your food, like just eat it. So like smoothie, you're keeping it all, or you might be adding other things, right? You might add like cinnamon or whatever. But with juice, you're losing a lot of good stuff. So then you want to not indulge in that every day.
Okay, I like that. I like that explanation. So then you wouldn't recommend people going on juice fasts or cleanses?
No, there's no science to back it up. The studies don't support it. It comes more from the wellness industry rather than from actual scientific studies.
And again, we're in this weird thing of, well, if you have to do a cleanse, you're probably not eating really good anyway.
If you want to do a cleanse, eat your fruits and vegetables.
Right.
And your kidneys and your livers are going to get rid of the toxins. Just feed your body with like a lot of good nutrients and antioxidants. Like there's no point in just consuming juice form, because if your goal is to cleanse your body, wouldn't you want to give it all the nutrition? Why would you want to strip half of it and only give half of it? It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. And the cleansing, if we want to get very graphic, the fiber is what is cleansing your
exactly
colon, right?
100%.
Yeah. Okay, cool. What are people talking about? Celery juice. Do we want to talk about celery juice? Is celery juice all it's cracked up to be?
There's not much science to back it up, but if someone wants to do it as part of their healthy diet, I have nothing against that. But if that's all they're consuming, then I have a problem. Then I would be concerned about their health. Like if they just want to drink a cup or two of celery juice part of their day, I don't think it's going to do much damage or anything. It might give them more nutrients, but it should be part of a healthy diet, not like the focus.
I like the what about probiotics, because this is another, I feel, maybe media fueled conversation that we have no gut flora, that we're all mucked up and we need to be taking probiotics. And I know there are foods like lentils that aren't lentils prebiotic and probiotic or something?
Okay, so let's quickly talk about the difference, because you might know, but some people might not know.
Yeah.
So there is prebiotics, probiotics, and then postbiotics. So there's three different things. Probiotics is essentially the bacteria, the flora in your gut. So sure, you can get that from foods and certain supplements, and I'll touch on that just in a second. But that's essentially what it is. It's like the actual living organisms. Prebiotics is basically the feed for these living organisms. Now, postbiotics is what you really care about. This is what these living organisms produce So like short chain fatty acids, neurotransmitters, things like that. So that's what you care about at the end of the day. So now, because I know this industry, that's what this fitness and wellness industry does. They hear something and they love to just like profit from it and confuse people. So of course there's studies that show that probiotic foods are good for us. So what they do is they come up with these supplements that are not backed by science and that may actually do more damage than good. Because when you're taking a probiotic, probiotics are very concentrated version of certain bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that, it's going to, one, not last for very long. It's probably going to go in and go out. But secondly, it's also going to disrupt the diversity of your gut microbiome. Because you have like so many different species, and now you're feeding few species in concentrated form that they're all going to be competing for food. So now you're going to reduce your diversity. So instead, whereas when you eat probiotic foods have diversity of probiotics.
Okay.
So eat those, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is really the feed. If you don't feed your gut bacteria, it doesn't matter what supplement you take, it's the prebiotics. So prebiotics is basically like fibers and certain like resistant starches. So if you're eating your whole grains, your legumes, your nuts, your seeds, your potatoes and things like that, honestly, you'll be feeding variety of different species in your gut bacteria, and they're going to be healthy. You don't need to worry about or spend money on these probiotic supplements that don't really work.
So again, back to variety of foods.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Potatoes are okay.
Potatoes are amazing. Can you talk about potatoes?
Please, go off.
Because I have such a big problem with people demonizing potatoes.
Yeah, okay,
potatoes are so good for you. The problem comes from what we do with potatoes. It's the French fries. It's the mashed potatoes with cream, whatever you put on it, right? It's always what you do with it. They did this study where they looked at satiety of different foods to help you lose weight. Boiled potatoes were at the top of satiety factor, number one.
What's this word you're saying?
Satiety.
What is that?
Satiety means like how full you feel.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I get you.
Yeah.
I didn't. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So
I didn't really know that was like a. I didn't know they would have used that in a medical term.
Yeah. So boiled potatoes were number one. So if you're trying to lose weight, actually having a bit of baked or boiled potatoes before your meal as an appetizer can help you with that, because it's gonna make you feel full, and when you come to your actual meal, you're gonna eat less. So potatoes can actually help you lose weight because they'll help you make you feel full. But if you fry them,
I can have a potato appetizer and a potato dessert. Is what you're telling me.
But the problem is,
what about roasting?
So roasting, is that just like baking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's completely fine if you're not dousing it with oil.
You gotta put oil on it to make it.
Like a bit is fine, but I'm saying if someone's trying to lose weight and then they're taking my potato recommendation and then they're dousing the oil and they're like, but I gained weight.
Yes, and French fries, of course, don't count.
Yeah.
That's what I had last night, is like frozen French fries on salad.
Oh, okay.
I mean, come on, it's like just a little bit of fries, but I had a whole big bowl of salad.
There you go.
Okay, well, I could talk to you for 5 hours, but I don't want this to go more than 1 hour. So let's try to get at least one more in, and then maybe we can get two in. Let me see.
Okay.
Oh, so many more questions came in while we were talking. Here. What's a good one? Here. What is your favorite plant-based protein and why?
Oh, my favorite. I don't know if I could pick a favorite, but if I had to, I would say, I'm struggling with this. There's so many. Probably lentils, because I feel like I use them in so many diverse ways. I make my bolognese with lentils. I use them in lasagna. I use them as a protein source on top of my like Buddha bowls. I use them in so many ways. I use them in curries. And so probably lentils, but I also really, really love tempeh. So that's up there too.
Oh yeah, I love
Yeah.
tempeh.
What
I like
about
the
you? What's your favorite?
tofu for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I love tofu as well.
You know, I've started putting just the tofu in the air fryer with salt. It doesn't need oil and it gets really crispy.
Okay, I have an air fryer. I haven't tried that though.
Now, the air fryer poses a bunch of other issues I'm concerned about, like the Teflon and the high heat and the plastic going into the food.
That's kind of why I don't use it often. Because I haven't I'll be honest, I haven't done a lot of study. I just bought
Mhm.
it. I use it once in a while when I'm like craving fried food because I still feel it's probably better than actual deep fried food. How
Oh, for sure.
healthy it is, we don't know yet because it's too much of a new product. So that's why I keep it as like like, if I'm wanting to indulge on a fried food, then I'm like, okay, I'd rather use it. But I'm not regularly using it right now, not on a daily
That is like a whole other thing because the carcinogenicness of the deep fried oil versus the carcinogenic factor of the plastic and the Teflon, like they
basis.
could end up being the same.
Yeah, that's what I said. We just don't have the studies, and I'm hoping now the air fryers are blowing up that they will do studies, and then we'll just have more answers. As of
And we'll do it.
now, as of
Yeah.
now, we just don't. So that's why I know That's why I only use it once in a while.
Right. How much raw food do you eat? Do you eat a lot of raw?
I Okay, it really varies day to day, but I do try to eat a lot of raw.
Mm.
So my smoothie bowls once a day are all raw that have a lot of fruits and then a lot of greens. And then I also try to throw in cauliflower in there. So that's something I do. I throw in frozen cauliflower. It makes my smoothie bowls really creamy and gets
Okay.
my cruciferous vegetables for the day out. So that's all raw. And then I try to get a Buddha bowl in, and a lot of that is raw. But then I also really enjoy cooked meals. And I'm not really scared of cooked meals in any way. So I would say
That's good.
probably 60% raw. That would be my guess. But it can vary. It can flip easily if I feel like eating more cooked.
Did you already eat dinner today?
No, I haven't yet.
What are you
That
gonna?
would be What am I going to make? Today's going to be one of those days where I'm walking to a restaurant with a friend and grabbing a takeout from there. I have not decided. It's a whole food plant-based vegan restaurant, so whatever I eat will be healthy.
What is it? Well, actually, don't tell us where you're gonna go in case people follow you or something. This has been so enlightening. I feel like there's so many more questions I have, but unfortunately, I've just plugged my phone in. It kept, I don't know if it was cutting out, but it's about to die. But I just plugged it in. So, thank you so much for this conversation with me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
I think we should do part 2 at some point
Oh, we
because
should.
there's
We
so
should.
much more to go over.
We didn't touch B12, iron, omega-3s. We need to do a
Yeah,
part
we
2.
didn't touch all those things. Holy crap, I forgot.
Yeah.
Well, here, let's do this one last one, which I thought was interesting. Which is the best type of water to drink?
Okay, the
Do you have
best type of
opinions?
water. So, okay, majority of bottled water is actually not even that good for you, to be completely honest. Most
Yeah.
of it is one, you get a lot of a lot of microplastics through that. You don't know what temperature it was kept in, and as the plastic heats up during transportation, it's causing so many problems. And they've done studies and found like bottled water, the water is a lot more acidic than it should be in general. So I try to avoid that, to be honest. I think best case scenario is to drink tap water, just use a Brita filter or some sort of a filter like that. I don't recommend, even though like I know a lot of people are moving towards like RO water, reverse osmosis water. I don't recommend that because it strips off all the minerals. And then that's problematic as well inside your body because now you're drinking this water that's supposed to have a natural balance of minerals and it has like pretty much none or very little.
Right.
So that's problematic for your body as well. So I would not recommend that, but other type of filtration processes like simple ones like Brita filter, something like that's completely fine. In certain places, tap water can be actually quite completely fine, but it depends on where you live. I don't know if you know this, a random fact to close this off. France has the healthiest water, the best water, and it's their tap water. So they don't, it's not like a special type of water, it's just a tap water, and it's free throughout Paris. They have tap waters everywhere, and it's the best water in the world. So,
I
and
mean, and that should really be a government, like federal issue. It's like the government should be providing everyone with really healthy, amazing water that
yeah,
doesn't need to be filtered, that doesn't need to have anything done to it.
absolutely. Yeah,
That's a
100%.
whole
100%.
thing. And because reverse osmosis, like if we were more natural, we'd be drinking spring water, which would be very mineralized, right, in nature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So reverse osmosis, I'm not a fan on. I think it's just quite problematic.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. I think that was a
Awesome.
great note to end on. Thank you for
Yeah.
joining me, and thanks for everyone for watching and asking all these questions. So I don't know when we'll do it. We'll stay in touch. Have you done a what I ate in a day video? Because I want to try to follow what you eat in a day.
I should do it. I haven't done it, but I should do it. A lot of people ask me that. And my problem comes from I just don't want people to be like, oh, this is the only way for me to
I
eat.
know.
And
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't even eat, like, I eat very healthy, but I don't eat consistently same food. Every day is so different for me
Yeah.
because I'm all about diversity. And I'm just so worried if people were to follow, they will just try to mimic those meals. And that's where my hesitation comes from. Like, I think it'd be a lot of fun for me to do it. So either I have to do like a bunch of them so they can see a lot of variety, or do
Right.
none. So I need to figure that out.
Yeah, I know. That was always my fear too. Of like,
Yeah.
I don't eat as healthy as you, so I was like, I'm not sure I should be showing this, but I think it's good for different people to do it so that we do see this variety within how people eat, because there isn't a standard. Like everyone again should be very individual with that. So, all right. Well, if you ever do one, I'll try to or maybe I'll just go on your site and grab recipes and eat like you for a day. I feel like you'd have to pay me to blend cauliflower into my smoothie.
Okay, can you just try it once? Just once.
I'll try it.
Okay, just like two small florets frozen.
Okay.
Just throw them in your smoothie.
Okay.
And be open-minded. That's the key.
Okay, and you're telling me it'll be creamy and it won't taste like a dirty sock.
No, it really won't. I promise you. Like, just try it. Just 2 florets of cauliflower.
Okay.
But if you really want, you can start with 1. See how that goes.
A big one. All right, I'm gonna try it. I'll try it.
Good. Yeah, let me know.
Okay. Thank you again. Have a good evening.
Okay, take care, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks for watching.
With you. Bye.